Hey, what's up, guys? FBB Pro, Jorlan Vieira here once again. I'm sorry, I'm speaking English, but it's a very, very nice reason. And today I have this special guest here, my buddy, my friend, Neil Hill. He's a coach for Rafael Brandão, and we are here in his CT training center. And today we had a very, very nice and great workout, the back workout. And I just would like to explain that just a little bit for the people, because it's a very nice opportunity to explain and share your vision and your reality and your analogy for the people about training. Let's start just talk about our workout today, and then you can explain another thing if you can, if you want.
Okay, cool. So primarily we did 4 different exercises today, and we were choosing exercises which were based around widthening and thickening the back from the upper scap to mid to lower, and also bringing the erectors into play. Now, those exercise selection also has to be considered with your mechanical setup, your body composition as well. So even though the movements that you choose may be very three-dimensional with the ability to build width and thickness, you also need to make sure that you're in line with the movements as well. What we were doing today was more like a hybrid workout, so we were able to indirectly incorporate myofibria and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. We were able to incorporate a really efficient form of progressive overload, especially when we were incorporating rest pause. We did that multiple times with the movements, with all movements, to be honest with you. Our first exercise was a close grip pull down, again, incorporating rest pause. Rep range was roughly, on average, 14 to 18 reps. So what we were able to do is we were able to upregulate large motor unit recruitment. We were able to bring in type 2B, type 2A, and also slow twitch muscle fibers, and we were able to incorporate, as I said earlier on, sarcoplasmic and myofibria hypertrophy because of the rep range and our ability to manipulate progressive overload using rest pause. That was our first movement. We did about 4 working sets. Then we went on to our second working movement, which was a bent over dumbbell row. That was a really great, efficient form of bringing large motor unit recruitment in very early. And again, we were incorporating rest pause where you were doing a bent over row. Did 3 to 4 working sets on that. Again, incorporating rest pause, rep range about 14 to 80 repetitions. Then we went on to our second movement, a third movement, which was a seated machine row. Again, if you don't have these pieces of equipment, it's okay. You can improvise and use what you do have at hand. Again, we use rest pause, different form of rest pause. This time you would have seen that obviously in the videos.
You can use the cable too, right?
Yeah, you could do it with the cable. Probably one of my favorite rows would be a close grip low pulley cable row. And even though they have that piece of equipment here, the area at the gym at the time was quite busy. And then we finished off with a lion pullover, which even though it wasn't necessarily a lower or a mid or an upper scap thickening exercise, very much outer lat. And because we used that as a last finishing exercise, we were already very much pre-fatigued. So that load and stress was going to stay there because the movement itself is going to bring a little bit of tricep activation in. Rep range was only about 10 to 12 reps. Because if you push those reps too high, you will find that triceps will come into play. So it was a very efficient workout today where we were able to create a high stimulus of thickness and width at the same time. So for me to have that opportunity with you in the gym was a great opportunity, and I obviously appreciate you taking time out your busy day to share this knowledge and expertise with these guys and girls at home.
No, I'm very happy and grateful to stay here with you because I follow you for a long time since you started to train flex wheels, and I follow all the journey.
Yep.
I have a couple videos too. I follow for a long time, and I appreciate your analogy, and your style with putting in your mind all the time into it. Don't go around and text or something very serious. And let me bring something about serious, what's happening in Brazil right now, and funny at the same time, because for me it's very normal and simple. You tell about dumbbell row, and I would like if you can do this favor for me and for my channel, explain to the people what is one arm dumbbell row and maybe show for them.
Okay, so one arm dumbbell row, performing that would be no different than you doing a bent over row where you're rowing together. So instead of using a bar, you're using a dumbbell, all right? I prefer to do bilateral, unilateral movements together, all right?
Okay.
You can't always do that because, for instance, if we were doing the first exercise, which was our pull down, we could be stronger on one side, all right? So what we can do, we're gonna favor one side. And you won't necessarily know that you're doing it, but what you may find is that you get more stimulus and more pump on one side. The problem is that there's possibly an underlying issue. You might have an impingement, so it could be very simple, right? It could be poor mobility. It could even be that neurologically you're not firing both sides because you're actually dehydrated.
Yeah.
I just want to put something which is really important. Hydration is absolutely critical for performances, sustained energy production, injury prevention as well, right? Hydration is key. When I see people doing movements through a rowing form, whether it's a bent over row or a single over row, they incorporate joint stability, all right? And they incorporate their front deltoid.
Yeah.
So if you think of gravity, if I was to pick up a dumbbell in my hand and I was to basically bring my arm forward very slightly, whether it's here, I'm going to be bringing shoulder activation, okay? So when you're rowing, you shouldn't be rowing from here and pulling backwards. Because if you're rowing, which tends to be a heavy movement, all right, for most people, irrespective how strong you are, all right, you wouldn't be holding a dumbbell in this position because you're bringing deltoid into play. It's a straight movement. It's up and it's down. So if I was going to be doing a bent over dumbbell row together, this is my movement here, okay? You'll notice gravity, everything's vertical. If I was going to do a single arm dumbbell row, I'm pulling here, okay? Gravity, vertical. I wouldn't be pulling backwards. Whereas if you were using a fixed selective machine where you have a pivot point, yes, you may be pulling through the arc, but the arc is not taking load throughout your shoulder. A bent over row where you're rowing together, the movement is straight up and down. You're not
Straight
pulling back.
up and down.
Okay, straight up and down. So if you're loading and overloading your shoulder joint, you run the risk of injury.
Just say for you explain to the people because they then create the illusion which I create this movement.
Yes,
I
yes.
say, man, you are you crazy? This is more old than me and you and everybody here together. You know? So because another thing is when you start to bring some new movement, you know, okay, maybe you can, but depends. But for the beginning, the journey, for the beginning guys or the medium guys or whatever, we need to know how do you how do you do correctly the back to basic. And the basic is up, down, up, down, up. But now the people create another version of this. And people start to call it the nickname Remada do Jojo. It's like my name.
Right,
you know, it's not I not create anything. I just copy. Watching the big boys, the professional guys, and doing what I have to do. That's why I think I have this great legs. You know. So it's very nice to your explanation for the people, and thank you for this. You know.
One thing I want to touch base on, and I've never thought about this. If you were going to do a squat, okay, a squat really should be straight and plane of motion, right? As you go through the movement, you're going to find that as you start to stress or you start to overload at some point, you get those last repetitions, your lower back becomes more vulnerable, right? And you certainly don't want to be going into a good morning position when you're squatting because the weight is too heavy, all right? You're shifting your movement, all right, because of that weight is dictating stress, all right? What you're doing then, you're taking stress away from your legs and you put it on your lower back. So what you're doing is you're overloading your shoulder joint by changing the plane of motion. Everything should just be straight. That's where the movement should start and that's where it should finish.
So now you know what's the correct way to do this shit. Okay, guys? So I appreciate so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, and I hope doing this again and enjoy again.
Good, cool.
Okay, thank you so much. And
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
right, give for them your social media and everything.
God,
Your
I'm
sponsor.
just trying to think my social media. Okay, so my IG social media is Neil_Yoda_Hill1.
Nice. Thank you once again.
Cool.
And see you soon.